Dust swirled through the sleepy town of Deadwind as the noon sun scorched down on cracked timber and broken dreams. The town was no stranger to sorrow. There was hardly a soul living there who hadn't lost something. Or someone. The silence that trailed a man who rode in that day was unnerving, even for Deadwind. He was tall, shoulders broad beneath a worn duster. His hat was pulled low, casting shadows over eyes that didn't seek conversation. His horse, a mottled gray with a limp, carried a single stool bag and nothing more. He tied the reins outside the mill, dismounted, and walked in like a ghost. No one knew his name. No one asked. But they'd remember the day he came, for he brought change with him, as quiet as a whisper and as fierce as a storm. He was just there for lumber. Chapter 2, Clara's World of Ashes. Clara Whitlock scrubbed at the floor of the tiny schoolhouse until her knuckles bled. She taught arithmetic by day, patched dresses by night, and kept her brother from drinking himself to death in between. Her heart had been broken in the war. First when her fiancé died at Antietam, then when the news never reached her mother, who took her own life waiting for a son-in-law that would never arrive. Clara didn't believe in miracles anymore. She did believe in work, though work and responsibility and survival. And when she spotted a stranger loading heavy planks of cedar onto his cart alone, something in her made her speak. "You'll ruin your back loading that solo." The cowboy looked up. No smile, no greeting, just a quiet nod. "I'll help," she added, stepping forward. "It's what decent folks do around here." He didn't stop her. They worked in silence, a rhythm building between them like two puzzle pieces cut from the same pattern. Afterward, he tipped his hat and began to leave. "What's your name?" she asked, unable to stop herself. He hesitated, then lifted a piece of scrap wood and carved with a small knife from his boot. "Weston." He couldn't speak. Clara blinked. He'd written it smooth and clear. It was then she noticed a scar on his throat. Jagged, deep, old. "Thank you," she said, voice softer. "You'll be needing supplies too. Town store's just past the saloon." Weston nodded again and rode off, the echo of hooves whispering like the memory of something long buried. Chapter 3, Trouble Brews. Later that evening, word spread like wildfire that Weston had roughed up the Brannigan brothers in the general store. No one quite knew what happened. Some said they'd insulted his muteness. Others swore one had made a pass at Clara earlier, and Weston stepped in when they tried again. Whatever the cause, the result was the same. Jasper Brannigan's nose was broken. His brother laid out cold, and Weston walked out without saying a word. Not that he could. Clara's reputation, always a subject of gossip, now burned like a lantern in the dark. But she didn't care. Not after what she saw. She visited Weston in the camp he'd set up a mile out of town beneath a knotted oak tree. "You didn't have to do that," she said, crossing her arms. He looked at her, then back to the fire. He wrote in the date. "They touched you." Clara swallowed. She sat down beside him, knees brushing. "You always protect strangers like that." He took longer this time. "Wrote. Only the good ones." Chapter 4, Bonds Forged in Silence. Over the following weeks, Clara found herself walking out to that oak tree more often. She brought Weston food. He carved her small animals from wood. They communicated in scribbles and gestures, and something deeper than words bloomed between them, an understanding born not of language, but of shared pain. He was building a small cabin near Dry Creek. He'd come for lumber, but Clara soon realized it wasn't just what he was gathering. It was purpose. One afternoon, after helping him frame the doorway, Clara sat down and dared to ask, "Who took your voice?" Weston stared at the sky for a long time. Then he rolled up his sleeve to show a brand, burned into his skin, U.S. Cavalry Property Mark. Clara gasped. "They turned you into property." He nodded. "That's why you left." He nodded again. She reached out and took his hand, trembling. "You don't have to be alone anymore, Weston." His hand closed around hers, tight and warm. He wrote slowly, "I'm not when you're here." Chapter 5. Fire and Gunpowder. But peace never lingers in the West. The Brannigan boys, humiliated and vengeful, returned one drunken night with rifles and torches. They set fire to Weston's incomplete cabin while he was away in town. Clara saw the flames from her window and ran through the darkness to find it. She arrived just in time to see Jasper light another match. "Don't!" she screamed. He spun around. Well, the mute's little pet. Clara didn't see the punch coming. Her knees buckled and she hit the ground hard. Jasper stood over her, breath sour. "You think he's some kind of hero? He ain't even a man. He's a broken thing." "Better broken than rotten," Clara spat, bleeding from her lip. That's when the silence shattered with the crack of Weston's revolver. He didn't miss. Jasper dropped. The other two scattered into the dark. Weston scooped Clara into his arms and carried her through smoke and ash, his grip shaking. She looked up at him and whispered, "You found your voice." Chapter 6. Ashes into Hope. Weston didn't face charges. Even the sheriff knew the Brannigans had it coming. Clara moved into what was left of the cabin. Weston rebuilt, this time with her help. Day by day, they reclaimed what the fire had taken. Weston carved a rocking chair for her porch. Clara taught him to read better. He taught her to live again. One quiet Sunday, as they watched the sun dip low behind the hills, Weston pulled a small wooden box from his pocket. Inside was a carved ring, simple, smooth, made from cedar. He knelt, then took her hand and looked into her eyes. He couldn't say the words, but he didn't have to. Clara nodded, tears sliding down her cheeks. "Yes, of course yes." Chapter 7. The Family He Never Dreamed of. Years passed. Deadwind slowly changed. Weston, once the mute stranger, became a respected figure. He was the town's best builder and quietest soul. Clara reopened the schoolhouse. Together they adopted 2 orphan boys left behind after the cholera outbreak. The boys adored Weston, mimicking his signs and carving tools. Weston never spoke, but in that house there was more laughter and love than any mansion in the East. And every year, on the anniversary of the fire, Clara would hold Weston's hand and say, "You rode in for lumber, love, but you gave me a home." And Weston, lips silent, would kiss her forehead and carve another wooden heart.